Well, but also it's a little bit, always comes back to me, Ross, where of all of the local councils that like to make their stand on Australia Day, I always notice Darwin and Alice Springs. No problem with Australia Day, right? The Northern Territory, with all of its obvious connections, country and the rest of it. Again, this doesn't mean you don't hear about sins of the past.
Yep.
During a history lesson that day that started with the national anthem, that you don't have some form of welcome to country at some significant sporting event. But the idea that even just before we try it out, this is some horrible little spirit that we're dropping into people that makes them too red, white and blue.
And linking the national anthem with what was a potential terrorism attack is just a horrible thing to do. And what makes countries great is you can have, it's not monoculturalism, but it is unity. It's a singularity of purpose. And the Australian national anthem, like you says, encapsulates that. To put it aside, well done Northern Territory, well done Lena. Let's get it out there. Leah.
Yeah, Leah Finocchiaro is spectacular. I'm telling you, there's quite a few little stars that are there in and around the state parliaments. We'll see what happens, but she's an absolute pocket rocket, and all the best to her running that beautiful part of the Northern Territory that we will be back to later in the year when it comes to our town. Geez, I wonder what month and whether fireworks on July the 1st May.
Territory Day!
Yet again play a role. I leave the kids at home this time. Okay, so the inflation numbers here, where Joe, I just want to ask, and I know this could solicit a much longer conversation, but why the hell do people let them get away with it? Because I do not understand.
Yeah, look, that is true.
What is special about
I wrote about this years, yonks ago, sorry. Obviously I'm soft on Labor, but they are not as strong as their parliamentary numbers and their opinion polling shows at face value.
Mile wide, but maybe half.
Normally think, oh no, Labor's taken a massive hit after Bondi because they've gone down from 58 to 55%. I mean, in any other context, that's still a Hail Mary. Likewise, the record 94 seats, that is just incredible. But both those things are not just because Labor is doing well. They are because the coalition has vacated the field, and I love Ross, obviously, but, the coalition is just in absolute shambles. And instead of holding Labor to account over the inflation numbers, which experts are saying is due to government spending, let's call a spade, they're talking to themselves and rolling themselves.
But also, in fairness, from memory, I think there was a little clip somewhere inside the Andrew Probyn package tonight in the 6 p.m news. But generally speaking, we don't get the words of the past being brought back on these people enough, because it's one thing for an opposition spokesperson to say it, or all the rest of it here. And again, if people make their judgment about who they think is the one who's going to run the country, that's cool. They're called elections, all right? Not sitting here sucking my thumb about those things. But Ross, it is extraordinary to me that they've got the balls to come out there and say, we're looking for savings, while their entire campaign against the opposition was a dollar saved is a cut, and that's going to result in more people poor people in the streets. When there was already poor people in the streets, record homelessness, that they wouldn't fund.
No, 100%. And this is the frustration. And we've contributed. Let's not pretend we haven't contributed to not making this out there. But there's a certain sense we see polling that in depth that other people don't see. People are accepting this is the new normal, though. They aren't getting as angry because it's been going so long. This isn't a peak. This is happening long term. And they're accepting of it like I've never seen before. People are just grateful to survive and no longer want to succeed. It's horrible.
But also part of the problem is, in our own lives, who isn't spending more? Yeah. Who isn't spending more than they're bringing in? Who hasn't borrowed too much? And that's part of the problem too, is that if we go back to, say, the Howard era, right? A lot of people from World War II are still around. These were people who didn't buy anything until they had it in full, right? Yeah. Generation later, they were able to borrow a little bit, but they still had to have a big deposit. Generation later, we'll give it to you and you can pay it off in 4 increments over. So unsurprisingly, that affects the politics. All right, Ross, elephant in the room. Again, we love talking to you. I want you in the parliament, but I don't understand. I just don't. And again, I'm trying to sit here as a person who advocated very publicly for you and your team to be in government 12 months ago, that 12 months later in this scenario where are the Nats out for good? Are they out for a year? Are they out for a week? Like what? Because it's very difficult for the 5 million people who voted for your team to find a reason to defend them at a barbecue this weekend.
Yep. I hope we're not out for good. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to be out for good. I think we're out for longer than we would like to be. Whatever it is, I think it's hard to get a relationship back together. If a marriage breaks down, you don't marry someone the next day. You just may start another relationship. 100%. So that's going forward. The reason is for us on this one, freedom of speech is an absolute. And if you want to go back to that first sentence about the link of potential hate speech of the national anthem, we didn't know where it would stop. It was an absolute. It was that important to us. We hoped it wouldn't blow up as big as it did, but we were aware we're not going to pretend we weren't aware it could. Our resignations were there. They were written the night before. They were handed in the next morning because we knew they were there. We need to find a way, though, that represents the divergence of Australia, that our electorates in regions who aren't off as well off the cities are having some very different struggles. One Nation is going in the polls all over Australia, but peri-urban places where we don't compete. There are different needs in regional and remote, in peri-urban and cities. And unless we find a mechanism where we can represent that, we are going to be buggered for a long term because the Liberals need to better represent their people and they need some flexibility from us and we need from them.
And I remember, and I was thinking back to when Matt Canavan and Pauline were with us during the election campaign and we were at Seagulls on Tweed Heads. And again, Pauline as often says, come and join us. He says, no, what I want to do is I want to be part of the team that can eventually run something, right? The logic, of course, always is that the National Party person is going to fire up on the behalf of their community, but they're either going to be in the same meeting room, cabinet room or hallway as the person who can make the decision. But obviously there's a lot of people who either don't see that, don't care about that anymore or think something's failed in all of that. How do you stress that at a time when it's like, you know what, all I want is somebody who's just going to blow it all up and tell them all to get stuffed?
Well, this is the problem.
Because that's what you get that on the street,
we had it yesterday. I just told you before we came here, my son's engine blew up on his first race day yesterday.
Sorry, mate.
I can look at the engine and say, engine's broken, I can't fix it. And that's the difference between an opposition party and another one. I can't fix that engine, and parties of government have to have the answers to make things better.
Yeah,
we want to be a party of government. We want to work on policy. Let's be honest, it wasn't working out that well in where we were. I don't know if either of you can name a policy of the coalition in the 9 months we've been named.
Well, it was just the giant fight about net zero, right? So we know where...
And Matt and I did that again, didn't come... We weren't...
So we have an absence of a policy.
Yeah.
Not a policy.
And that was the thing. Things weren't going great. This happened. It wasn't a catalyst for any... There was no global conspiracy.
Yeah.
But we have to find a mechanism to move forward. It is better for Australia and we need the answers. We'll work on policies. They'll have a crack at us. We deserve to have a crack at us. I deserve to pay a price, not pretending that I didn't. But... overall, country regions, we need people in the room coming next election so that we can have policies that help them. And if we don't, we are failing.
Now, I've been thinking about this a lot too, Joe, which is that the way the Labor Party works is that, let's imagine the three of us, we're in a room furiously disagreeing about something. Two of us go one way, one of us go the other way. As soon as we walk out of the room, the rules are all three of us agree with whatever was just agreed to, right?
That's Hence why Penny Wong opposed gay marriage.
Stupid, right? But it's so clearly crazy.
Yep.
However... it means message discipline. It means nobody says anything that's off the sheet. It means that there's not sources close to and all of that. So in many ways, the messiness of what we're going through, and it is not me putting any silver lining on it because there isn't, right?
Yep.
I appreciate that people like Ross going through the mess are telling us what's going on through the mess, right? Because there is another side of politics and an even more secretive side than the Greens, who remember party rooms, leadership, you think papal conclaves are difficult to work out what's going on inside. Green party rooms, right?
Green
where the smoke's different.
Yeah.
It's a Politburo, comrade.
Yeah, correct.
We have very transparent policies, but only we can see the progresses that are very transparent.
Correct.
Because we have the good eyesight.
So here's the problem, right?
Yeah.
One is clearly healthy, one is not. But equally, one is not helpful in politics and one is.
Obviously, in politics, you have to have a degree of discipline and a large degree of discipline. Otherwise, why have parties as well? Parties weren't in the Constitution in Australia. They haven't been in any constitution of any major democracy. They evolved naturally because it's the only way to get things done. You get enough people who agree broadly on, a set of principles,
a conscience vote on everything
or values
means...
or whatever, and then you say, right, what can we do? What can we all agree on? What can we get sort of critical mass on, right? So there is that. The question is, how ironclad do you want it to be? Now, Labor tears itself apart all the time. If you look at any conference that they go to,
Again, no one's paying attention. It's not multi-day.
Even just the stuff that they say to each other or about each other. But at the end of the day, they all get out there and they all say exactly the same thing, and you can have absurd positions like Penny Wong's on same-sex marriage that are actually, ironically, made a virtue of, because it's an example of this is how disciplined I am, this is how committed I am to the success of the party over my success or my, sleeping easy at night as an individual. And that's the difference between a party of government and a party of protest. And that's why One Nation and the Greens have more in common than I think they realise.
Well, and
the question is, I was just going to quickly say, sorry, it is your show.
Relax.
But the question is,
I'm just stewing in my own juices.
But the thing with the Liberal Party and the coalition is they do allow conscience votes on most things. And the only exception, of course, is the shadow cabinet is meant to vote together. But if you were going to have that, make a virtue of it. So don't make it a capital offence for a bunch of Nats front benchers to vote.
But by design, when something hits a certain threshold in opposition, I agree. Ross, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for explaining. By the way, throw in the Teals with that party of protest as well.
Yes.
All right.